The new transfer student started clinging to me from day one. He was proud, cheerful, and full of vigor. I tutored him in his studies, helping him rise from the bottom of the class to among the top. He would defend me from trouble, pinching my cheeks while saying, "You little scaredy-cat, want to skip class with me and get some ice cream?" Until I heard him confessing to someone else at the stairwell corner. His eyes were docile, his voice pleading. "I came here for you. You hate her, don't you? I'll bring her down." That evening during study hall, I completed 7 test papers, making everyone nervous. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. In my final year of high school, all my science notes were thrown into the school pond. Peter Wilson jumped into the muddy water without hesitation. Soon, he held up the soaked notebooks high above the water. He looked at me with a bright smile. "Maggie, I found your notebooks." Looking at the notebooks stained with ink and mud. Thank you," I thanked in a low voice. I was a born stutterer and couldn't speak fluently. "Would you like to get some ice cream with me after school as a thank you?" He grinned, showing his pointed canine teeth. The students gathered around started teasing. No. I had a physics tutorial after school, and I didn't want to waste study time. As soon as I refused, Peter's expression drooped like a disappointed puppy. "Okay. I won't bother you then." His amber eyes were filled with regret. Peter's classmates immediately jumped to his defense. "Peter helped you get your notebooks from that dirty water. And you won't even treat him to ice cream?" I watched as Peter stood tall, joking around with his classmates. "Leave Maggie alone, she's busy." If I hadn't known Peter's true nature, I might have really believed he was my salvation, my protecting knight. I still remember yesterday at the stairwell corner. He was kneeling, helping a girl tie her shoelaces. The sunlight cast a golden glow on his profile, making the usually proud boy look gentle and careful. I leaned against the wall, covering my mouth. I heard him clearly say, "You really hate Maggie Sinclair, don't you? Just wait a bit longer, I'll bring her grades down. Don't worry, I won't fall for her. I'm here for you, Janie." Before I met Peter, I seemed invisible to everyone. Ever since Mom remarried, she changed completely. She transformed from being my mother into the mother of my stepfather's daughter. At the dinner table, she wouldn't stop praising Janie Ward. "Janie, dear, have some more. These chicken wings are your favorite." Mom moved all the chicken wings from her plate to my supposed sister Janie's. Janie gave me a cold glance, looking somewhat disgusted. "No thanks, I'm on a diet." I looked up at Mom, and her smile became awkward. "Oh yes, of course, you're so beautiful, Janie." When Mom noticed me looking at her, her face suddenly turned red with anger. "Unlike you, Janie doesn't just eat and eat and eat until she's fat as a pig." I lowered my head in silence. I was born with a stutter, especially noticeable with long sentences. So I didn't bother defending myself. I just kept my head down and ate my rice. The rice was a bit too salty today. I didn't understand why, even though I didn't eat much. My body seemed to inflate like a balloon, gaining weight and developing lots of spots. When I tried suggesting going to the doctor, Mom argued back, twisting my ear saying, "It's just teenage acne, you're always making a fuss. We don't have money for checkups. You never think about how hard it is for me, always wanting to waste money." Yet Janie's dance lessons, at 30 pounds each, never stopped. My stepfather didn't like me either, though he maintained a facade of kindness. My bulky figure only made Janie's beautiful, slender form stand out more. I had this burning feeling inside. I refused to believe I was inferior to Janie in every way. So I studied desperately hard, finally making it into the top 50 in school. Much better than Janie's average performance. But when I returned home with my 5-kilo backpack, passing by an elegantly decorated accessory shop, I clearly saw Mom and my stepfather together, picking out pearl hair clips for Janie. Janie was lazily eating an ice cream from Dairy Queen, while Mom stood behind her, on tiptoes, trying different clips in her hair. I gripped my backpack straps tightly, standing in the flowing crowd, watching them. My backpack suddenly felt impossibly heavy, as if I couldn't take another step. I stared at the DQ logo on Janie's ice cream. I remembered how last week when I asked Mum for money for school supplies, she angrily threw 5 at me. I bought a highlighter, an eraser, and a pen. That was all the money gone. The teacher's words echoed in my ears. Red pen for corrections, red pen for corrections. Maggie Sinclair, ask your mum to buy you a red pen. Peter was a transfer student. He started clinging to me as soon as he transferred to our school. Before the teacher could assign him a seat, he sat down right in front of me. Miss, I'll sit here, he declared. Then he turned around to face me. Hi, I'm Peter. Could I borrow a pen? As the unremarkable chubby girl in class. This was the first time a boy had initiated conversation with me. My heart instantly tensed up, and I even felt instinctively ashamed. Please don't mock me or laugh at me. This is the natural reaction of someone who's always been overlooked. Someone insecure and timid when faced with friendliness. I frantically searched through my backpack, but could only find some worn-out, less-than-perfect pens. These were ones I'd picked up from the floor during cleaning duty. I didn't get pocket money. Most of my stationery came from school rewards or things I'd found. Finally, I managed to find a black Click pen to give to Peter. This pen had thick ink flow. I only used it for English essays when I really needed to. He took the pen and casually handed me a Ferrero Rocher chocolate. Thanks, this is for you. That chocolate wrapped in golden foil made me feel instantly awkward. In 2015, Ferrero Rocher was an expensive treat for me. Something I'd never tasted before. I carefully tucked it away in my desk drawer, planning to return it to him after class. When the bell rang and he stood up, I gathered my courage to call his name. Thankfully, I didn't stutter. Peter. What is it? Peter turned to look at me. He was quite tall, and standing on the chair runner made me have to crane my neck to see him. He had a smile playing on his lips, his eyes reflecting my chubby, shy self. You shouldn't. Give me. I was pathetic. I was stuttering again. He let out an amused laugh. The wind suddenly gusted through the windows. It lifted the blue curtains like billowing sails. Papers from around the classroom fluttered up like wings of doves. One sheet partially covered his face, hiding half his features. He smiled at me and said, "Look who's turned into a little stutterer." It's quite cute, actually. High school students are usually sensitive about transfer students and tend to be exclusive. However, Peter quickly became popular with everyone. He was outgoing, tall, and handsome, and the teachers treated him with notable respect. High school students naturally feel intimidated by wealthy and privileged classmates. Peter integrated perfectly into the class. During breaks, boys would invite him to play basketball, and girls would remind him about the next lesson. Many people tried to get close to Peter. Despite sitting so close to him, I couldn't bring myself to say a word. But Peter took the initiative to approach me. During class, when he forgot his textbook, he would naturally move his chair next to mine to share. He would casually turn to me to ask for homework. Somehow, we gradually became familiar with each other. But most times, Peter only talked to me during lessons. As soon as break time started, he would disappear. I didn't have any close friends. So during breaks, I usually sat at my desk working on physics problems. That's when Jason approached me with his physics paper. Jason Booth was our class academic representative. He was tall with delicate features, but he often wore round glasses and parted his hair in the middle, earning him the nickname teacher's pet from other boys. He had a rather gentle nature, which made other boys reluctant to include him in their activities. Jason and I were both somewhat like outsiders in our class. Jason plopped down in Peter's seat with his test paper, then turned around to work on the problems with me, our heads close together. As we calculated, we felt closer to finding the answer. When we looked up at each other and smiled, there was a sense of mutual understanding. But at that moment, we heard laughter. A few bored boys gathered around us to tease. "What are you two doing?" "Dating, obviously," one of them sneered. As soon as those words left the boy's mouth, Jason reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He instantly pushed away the test paper between us. The thin paper, crushed against the textbook, tore in half with a ripping sound. Jason's face turned bright red, not from shyness, but from embarrassment and shame. He was ashamed of being paired with a fat girl. Before we could solve the physics problem, Jason stood up and shouted, "Don't talk rubbish, I would never fancy Maggie." One of the boys snickered, "Yeah, Maggie's too fat." Around me were the boys' teasing laughter, and Jason's raised voice trying to explain himself. I gripped my pen tightly, remaining completely silent. My face stayed calm, but I knew that the structure of self-esteem in my heart was crumbling, falling piece by piece. Dust and smoke rose from within my heart. I wouldn't cry. A fat girl's tears would gain no sympathy. They would only make the situation more awkward. I just kept my head lower and lower. What's wrong with being fat? It means she's eating well. Peter's magnetic yet slightly husky voice rang out. He had returned to the classroom at some point and was now standing beside us. His tall stature gave him quite an imposing presence. Being a new transfer student, he hadn't received his school uniform yet, and was wearing his own black crew neck t-shirt. A silver chain hung around his neck, making him appear even more proud and rebellious. Peter was lazily twirling a small keyring between his fingers, with a little white rabbit charm attached to it. He tossed the rabbit onto my desk, seemingly trying to comfort me in my distress. Then he casually reached out and grabbed the back of Jason's collar, saying in a playful tone, "Move along, mate. Stop wasting Maggie's time. I need her help with some problems." The boys nearby started teasing. "What's this then? Is Maggie yours or something?" Peter gave them a lazy glance, a casual smile playing on his lips. But his tone was remarkably firm and serious. "Yes, she is." "Got a problem with that?" The young man's frankness left them speechless. "Maggie, help me with this question," Peter said, shoving past a blushing Jason. He opened his physics textbook to the chapter about frame of reference, and insisted I explain it to him. Jason's face alternated between white and red. But due to Peter's presence, he didn't say anything. He just gripped his physics book tightly, his knuckles turning white with visible veins. Although the frame of reference chapter was relatively simple, I still explained it to Peter carefully. However, as I was explaining, I noticed something wasn't quite right. I happened to look up and caught his gaze. He wasn't looking at the problems at all, just resting his chin on his hand and watching me with interest. Those world-weary drooping eyes and obsidian-black irises. It made my heart flutter nervously. Peter was different from the other boys in class. I'd been called names like wild boar when I had to stand as punishment in class. Boys behind me would complain that I was blocking their view. When it came to dirty work like taking out the rubbish or cleaning the sink, others would instinctively make me do it. Because I was fat and ordinary, so I had no right to resist. When moving heavy items, I'd tried saying, "I don't think I can carry books for 2 classes by myself." The only response I got was an impatient, "Fat people are strong, stop being dramatic." But Peter was different. He was the only one who treated me like a girl, a regular teenage girl's fragile self-esteem. At this moment, it was finally seen and protected by someone. I'm certain I have feelings for Peter. I dare not use the word like. Jason's behavior has taught me that my liking someone could make them uncomfortable and angry. I don't want to hurt Peter. Therefore, I'll never express my feelings for him. It's strange, but I always want to do something to show my affection. So when Peter asked me to help him with his studies, I agreed without hesitation, even though it would take up my time. During that period, Peter would ask for my help with his schoolwork every day after classes. If you're sitting on a moving boat and you see the green hills on the riverbank moving backwards, what's your frame of reference? Why would I be on a boat anyway? Peter blinked at me with a smile. It's just hypothetical. Please answer what your frame of reference would be. I don't understand what a frame of reference is. We just covered this type of question in physics class last period. I've forgotten, he continued to say with an innocent expression. even though I had subtle feelings for him in my heart. I really couldn't stand how dim-witted he was being right now. Every time I almost lost my temper and wanted to stop this tutoring session, he would immediately look at me with his puppy dog eyes, tugging at the sleeve of my school uniform saying, "Please, my dad will kill me if I don't do well on the exam." I sighed and had no choice but to pick up my pen and continue explaining the problems. Because of these tutoring sessions, we seemed to grow closer. After school, Peter would grab my ponytail, grinning broadly. "Hey scaredy-cat, let's go get some ice cream at Dairy Queen." "I need to stay back for classroom duties and work on more practice questions," I hesitated. Come on. They say you can turn their ice cream upside down and it won't fall out. If you don't come, it means you hate me." As he spoke, he leaned in close to me, looking at me with his bright eyes. I nodded in agreement. If you like someone but don't do anything about it, then you don't like them enough. I was willing to pay the price for my affection. So, I would organize my notes and explain the problems to Peter over and over again. In the hot, dry summer, he would furrow his brows while listening to problems he couldn't understand. I would take out my transparent writing board to fan him while watching him practice. Even though I knew my actions were just self-gratifying, I hoped my presence could make him a bit more comfortable. I spent a lot of time and effort tutoring him. It was like teaching him math and science all over again from scratch. His grades finally improved from the bottom of the class to the top 20. Of course, I couldn't deny his hard work either. Although Peter was slow to learn, he was very diligent. And I admired diligent people. My fondness for him grew a bit more. However, my own grades had dropped. The dinner after each monthly exam was my favorite time. During these moments, Mum seemed to love me a bit more, proudly talking about my grades. After all, this was the only thing I was better at than Janie. As usual, Mum put the chicken leg, which I rarely got on other days, in my bowl. "How did the exam go?" Mum asked casually. I lowered my head shamefully. Before I could say anything, Janie chimed in with her gentle voice. "I heard that Maggie's grades dropped quite a bit, now she's 15th in class." Just as Janie finished, my stepdad leisurely said, "Grades aside, just don't get into trouble." My mom felt even more embarrassed. Her face turned from red to ashen. "I've seen Maggie getting quite close to a boy recently," Janie added with a smile. "Oh my, that needs attention." "Maggie, you're too young for dating." My stepdad looked at me with a gentle tone. Mom slammed her bowl on the table. She wanted to lose her temper but held back, afraid of spoiling Janie and my stepdad's dinner. An awkward atmosphere hung over the dining table. Only my stepdad kept serving food to Janie. I picked up the chicken leg, wanting to finish quickly. Mom suddenly snatched it away with her fork. "Eat? What makes you think you deserve it?" she snapped at me. Afraid of Mom, I just lowered my head and ate the vegetables before me. After dinner, Mom called me to her bedroom. As soon as I entered, she threw a ceramic ornament that hit my head. A barrage of accusations followed. "You worthless girl, how dare your grades drop? Are you dating someone?" Her eyes were filled with anger and hatred. She hated that I was fat and ugly, hated that I couldn't please my stepfather, and hated that I was now a burden. I looked at my mother's thin frame. "Mom, aren't I your daughter?" I asked. "You can't compare to Janie in anything. You're an embarrassment." "But Mom, you fought for my custody. That was just for your father's child support." She looked at me coldly. At that moment, I felt the bond with my mother dissolve. I couldn't help but smile. "What are you smiling at? How dare you smile? You little tart, who are you getting close to? Do you think anyone would want you? You fat pig." My smile enraged my mother. This woman, before the divorce, she relied on my birth father, gambling and drinking. After the divorce, she still didn't work, spending her days playing cards and drinking. The only change was she learned to please Janie and my stepfather. Her status in the family was low, so she took it out on me. Only by doing this could she vent her hatred of being looked down upon. The weak turning their blade towards the weaker. Warm blood trickled down from my forehead like a small fish sliding across my skin. As the small fish returned to dust, I would no longer expect my mother's love. I had to accept that not all parents love their children in this world. I'll improve my grades, I smiled at my mother. Mrs. Ward. To improve my grades, I decided to have an honest conversation with Peter. Peter, my grades have dropped, I said sincerely. His expression softened momentarily, revealing a shadow of concern that quickly vanished. He maintained his casual smile. Oh, it's nothing. You just scored 50 points less than last time. You must have had an off day. You'll catch up next time. That wasn't it. I was certain it wasn't just an off day. I'd been spending less time studying. All that time wasted on ice cream outings, teaching him pool, and explaining basic problems that any fool could understand. I've already helped him review all the key concepts. I believe I've shown enough affection. If liking someone starts affecting my normal life, it's time to cut my losses. I shook my head and said, I don't want to tutor you anymore. I watched as Peter's eyes darkened instantly, like storm clouds covering the sun. The young man exploded in anger, violently pushing the table in front of me. You promised me. You made a promise and now you're breaking it. I can't believe you're blaming me for your falling grades. That's not what friends do. I was wrong about you. The young man grew increasingly upset and ran off with his back straight. I was completely puzzled. As a friend, I believe I deserve full marks. After all, during a time when everyone else was keeping their knowledge to themselves. Afraid of being overtaken. I taught him entire textbooks of maths and science. So I don't understand why Peter is angry. Since I can't comprehend his emotions, I've decided it's my turn to get angry too. My anger quickly turned into suspicion. Every evening after study hall, I had to walk down a pitch-black street to get home. The street lamps had been broken for years, and despite numerous calls to the council, no one had come to fix them. Though the path was dark, I'd walked it for many years without incident. I'd told my parents before that this route scared me and felt unsafe. Mom just laughed it off. You're plain enough to be safe. What are you worried about? My stepfather then frowned and glanced at my elegant stepsister Janie. Janie, shall I pick you up after study hall? I could get your sister too while I'm at it. Janie pouted sweetly. But Daddy, I don't want to stay for study hall anyway. After that, Janie never attended study hall again. And naturally, no one came to pick me up either. So every day, I'd grip my backpack straps and walk down this dark street alone. Nothing had ever happened before, but today I was cornered. With my rather simple worldview, I immediately categorized the young man before me. Wearing casual clothes but carrying a school bag, probably around my age, as one of the school troublemakers. The tall, skinny youth with a buzz cut grabbed my collar. Spare some cash, yeah? Yes, I have money, I quickly replied. I carefully pulled out my only £5 note from my pocket, holding it up like an offering. The buzz-cut lad stared at the crumpled fiver in my palm. Suddenly, he exploded with rage. Damn, are you taking the piss? What's £5 gonna get? It's all I have, I tried to explain. To make my words more convincing, I looked straight into his eyes, trying to appear as honest and simple as possible. Fat cow. The buzz-cut boy snatched my £5 and kicked out at me. The kick wasn't particularly painful, but with my heavy backpack, I lost my balance and fell backwards awkwardly. Looking up at the group of troublemakers surrounding me, I wondered how to escape. Surely they wouldn't beat me up. If they did, getting beaten would be bad enough. But if they seriously hurt me, I wouldn't be able to attend school. As I was contemplating whether to beg on my knees, a tall figure stepped into view. The young man cut through the darkness like a beam of light, sharp and intense. He tilted his chin up, his eyes flickering like flames. Maggie's with me, got it? His pointed chin traced an arc through the air. What ridiculously dramatic language! I was already imagining them beating both Peter and me up. Peter seemed well off. Maybe I could convince him to just give them his money. But surprisingly, the buzz-cut lad showed fear. Under my puzzled gaze, he spat out a threat. You lot better watch yourselves, before fleeing with his mates. My suspicion grew stronger. I knew Peter was famous, but surely not enough to frighten off a whole group. I pushed my doubts aside and looked up at Peter. Peter wore a bright smile, showing his canine teeth, looking both cute and sincere. Maggie, did they hurt you? I shook my head, slowly getting up from the ground. Peter didn't help me up, just looked down at me and asked, I saved you, how are you going to repay me? Then, he curved his lips upward and said, emphasizing each word, keep tutoring me, how about that? Of course, I didn't agree. My mind was focused on improving my studies. I began to review the process of how we got close. When we first met, he approached me. He asked me to tutor him, and if I accidentally touched his hand during the tutoring sessions, he would awkwardly pull away. Many times when I needed to attend evening study sessions, he would find various excuses to make me help him with tasks. Whether it was classroom duty or cleaning the computer lab, all sorts of reasons that disrupted my studies. I became increasingly suspicious of Peter, wondering if Jason had sent him deliberately to lower my grades. After all, Peter was a transfer student with whom I had no previous connection, and Jason's rankings were always firmly below mine. Plus, he often expressed his desire to surpass me. The second suspicious person was Janie. Actually, I didn't suspect her much, since she excelled at everything. But after reviewing everything, I noticed she seemed the happiest when my grades dropped. To verify my suspicions, I prepared two different approaches. The first was something I casually mentioned to Janie. My birthday's coming up, but it's a shame I don't have any close friends. I'd love to receive a nice pencil set. The second was what I told Jason. My birthday's coming up, but it's a shame I don't have any close friends. I'd love to receive a complete exam preparation guide. After that, I started observing. I watched Jason every day, catching his eye several times. His evasive glances made me even more vigilant. Finally, one day after school, Jason couldn't help but stop me. The slim, handsome boy slightly lowered his head, his cheeks flushed. Maggie, I'm not looking to date during high school. What? Jason looked at my confused and surprised expression, adjusted his glasses and said, You keep looking at me, isn't it because you like me? No, you've got it wrong. I remembered his strong reaction the last time others teased us. Jason's behavior was puzzling. I shook my head and decided to leave. But Jason bit his lip and called me back. Maggie, I know you're still upset about when everyone teased us. And I pushed you away. I shouldn't have judged by appearances and felt ashamed because of you. What nonsense was he talking about? No wonder Jason couldn't outperform me. He seemed to have something wrong with his head. I turned to leave. As if making some kind of decision, he suddenly moved closer and grabbed my wrist. I noticed then that Jason wasn't wearing his glasses, and without them he looked like a delicate sapling. His eyes were misty, and his usually pale cheeks were as red as wild roses. Maggie, you're a really wonderful person, an exceptional person. Actually, I like you. You mentioned your birthday was coming up, so I got you these exam guides. As he spoke, Jason pulled out thick practice books from his heavy backpack. Although I didn't have a very good impression of Jason, it did feel nice to be appreciated so firmly. And he had gotten me a gift. By now I had dismissed my suspicions about Jason trying to harm me. But just to be safe, better to be overcautious than sorry. I said, Jason, if you're trying to date me, I'll tell the teachers. Jason's blushing face instantly went pale. He stared at me in shock. His expression was like someone looking at a heartless villain. Of course, since you're good at English. If you agree to tutor me, I won't tell the teachers. I said, crossing my arms. And in return, I'll occasionally help you with physics. But it can't take up too much of my time. I was better at some subjects than others. And to quickly get back to the top rankings, I needed to improve my weaker subjects. Jason agreed. But Peter stopped me. He took out a beautifully wrapped pencil case filled with ballpoint pens and markers in different colors. Peter smiled at me, his eyes crinkling. Your birthday present. Do you like it? I smiled softly, my voice clear and joyful. I do. The man behind the scenes. Caught him. I don't know how Janie met Peter. But that doesn't matter. Just stay away from people who disrupt my life. I asked the teacher to change my seat and moved next to Jason. Finally, I could focus on my studies away from Peter. Peter seemed confused by my deliberate distance. After class, he came to my desk, speaking playfully. "Hey, scaredy-cat, can you see the board from here? Want me to have a word with the teacher?" He knew he was popular, and him talking to me would cause gossip and speculation from our classmates. I frowned. Looking at the tall boy before me, I spoke coldly. "You're blocking my view of the board." Peter froze, his eyes narrowing as he looked at me. He licked his lips, as if trying to swallow his emotions. Jason, sitting beside me, quickly pushed his maths notebook towards me. "Copy mine." I took complete notes during class. Peter's gaze darkened, his tone both joking and pointed. "I thought you hated Maggie, given how strongly you reacted last time. What changed? Found something good about her?" Jason adjusted his glasses and looked up at Peter. His voice firm but gentle. "I don't like gossip, but what's wrong with us studying together?" "I enjoy studying." Peter, though rebuffed, didn't seem angry. He maintained his playful smile. But I noticed his fist clenching beneath his school uniform. After school, I stayed behind for classroom duties. As group leader, I had to turn off the lights and multimedia equipment. After all other students had left, I was packing my bag. Someone gently tugged at my backpack strap. I looked up to find Peter's handsome face. "Maggie, why have you been ignoring me lately?" His usually rebellious face wore a forced cheerful expression that looked rather awkward. "I haven't been ignoring you, I just need to study," I replied dismissively. "Then why won't you come to the snooker club with me anymore? Or help me with my homework? What if I don't want to?" "So you don't want to be friends anymore, you won't spend time with me?" he said, his voice lifting slightly in a whining tone. "If that's what you think, I can't help it." I shrugged, spreading my hands with an innocent expression. Perhaps I was too harsh in rejecting him. Peter had his pride too, and he started giving me the cold shoulder. The funniest part was that, as his group leader, he wouldn't submit his homework. When I went to collect assignments, he clearly saw me but lazily lifted his amber eyes, looking at everyone else but me. "Math homework, please." Peter pretended not to hear and kept chatting with others. Whatever. It wasn't me who'd get in trouble if he didn't submit it. I simply skipped him and handed in the collected assignments to the teacher. Peter deliberately avoided speaking to me, even during inevitable group discussions where he'd just sit there with his head down. During group work, he remained silent, hands in his pockets, trying to look cool. I ignored it all. When Peter realized his silent treatment suited me just fine, he changed tactics and started pestering me again. I truly admired Peter's flexibility. What had Janie offered him? I finally got my answer at the stairway corner after school. I'd forgotten my water bottle and went back to get it. I saw Janie leaning against the railing, a casual smile playing on her pretty face. And Peter, that proud boy. He was kneeling before Janie, reverently tying her shoelace. Sunlight fell on Janie's face, coating her in a gentle golden glow, as if she were Peter's deity. Peter was her most devoted follower. He looked up, his voice soft and tender. "Don't abandon me. I'll bring Maggie down. I'm here for you." I covered my mouth tightly, my back pressed against the wall, not daring to make a sound. I heard Janie's languid voice. "Don't let her go to the upcoming physics Olympiad. I promise." After their footsteps faded away, the sweat on my body had cooled in the breeze, my uniform sticking to my back. Though I'd anticipated this outcome, it still hurt a little. Thinking back to those precious moments with Peter, all those sweet gestures I'd quietly made, those memories I'd treasured and polished in my heart, like honey dripping from a snake's tail. I looked up at the vast orange sunset through the window, hazy yet startlingly bright. A girl's beautiful dream would no longer be about a prince falling from the sky. My dream would be firmly held in my own hands. When I discovered that Peter might try to sabotage my physics competition, I became more cautious around him. I even started carrying my water bottle everywhere. Despite my precautions, on the evening before the physics competition, after the late study session, I was cornered in the small alley. I tilted my head up to meet Peter's eyes. Without his usual facade, Peter didn't look cheerful at all. His dark eyes were filled with arrogance and indifference. Peter had his school blazer tied around his waist. And beneath his usually neat uniform, he wore a black tank top. His arm muscles were lean and sharp. He looked like a bodgy. He no longer showed that puppy-like bright smile. Instead, his expression seemed rather cruel to me. "Maggie, be a good girl, will you? Come with me, just for a day and night. I promise nothing will happen. I have the physics competition tomorrow," I said firmly, looking up at him. "I know, and I don't want you to go," he said coldly, putting out his cigarette. "This is important to me, Peter. Please let me go, for old time's sake when I was kind to you. I promise I'll give you all my prize money from the physics competition." I tried to persuade him. He absently played with the silver skull pendant hanging around his neck. I watched his expression carefully. His eyes seemed distant and hesitant. But finally, he seemed to make up his mind. He grabbed my backpack strap, his voice soft. "Just one night, sorry Maggie. You can take university entrance exams later. And if you fail those too, I'll take responsibility." At this point, he smiled as if relieved, unconsciously cupping my face with both hands. "Who needs your responsibility? You're mental. Get off me." Once I was certain he wouldn't change his mind, I couldn't help but shout at him. As I was about to kick him in the groin, his gang of bodgies surrounded me. A cloth was pressed against my nose. In my last moments of consciousness, I smelled ether. Peter's perspective. "I've locked Maggie in my family's mansion. It's quite comfortable there, with a bed, air conditioning, drinks and fruits in the fridge, snacks in glass cabinets. Lots of sci-fi novels she loves, and even a Nintendo Switch. Just one day is all I need. Just long enough to prevent her from attending the Olympiad. This is the last thing I'm doing for Janie." I met Janie during a hot summer in secondary school. At that time, I had decided to end my life. The reason was simple: both my parents were having affairs. I witnessed my father flirting with another woman, and my mother sleeping with another man. Yet at the dinner table, they would act all lovey-dovey. And my father would even give my mother a goodnight kiss. Seeing my mother's pretend shyness made me question everything. Are all human relationships this fake and filthy? During that period, they were both busy with their affairs. To get their attention, I started smoking, racing cars, and getting into fights. I've seen the disgust in my teacher's eyes and heard their comments behind my back. Born bad, if it weren't for his family's money, he'd belong in prison. But no one could control me. Firstly, because I was under the legal age. And secondly, because my father knew people in high places. Similarly, no one cared about me. No matter how hard I tried to get their attention, nothing worked. During that time, I made many bad friends. Got involved with things I shouldn't have. I couldn't quit, and when the cravings hit, I smashed every piece of glass in the house. My parents finally noticed me. They decided to give up on me. While it wasn't too late, they decided to end their loveless business marriage and abandon their notorious son. I was locked up and forced into treatment, enduring 18 sessions of electroshock therapy in a treatment facility costing £30,000 a month. Electroshock was the quickest and most effective method. When the current flowed from my skull through my entire body, I had only one thought. I wanted to die. When I made this decision, I met Janie. When she learned about my decision, she asked me a strange question. "Are you rich? If you die and can't take the money with you, could you donate it to me?" I thought she was just greedy and couldn't help but curse at her. She wasn't angry though, as if she was used to being scolded. She said, it would be such a waste to die with money unspent. Strangely, her nonsense distracted me from my plan to slash my wrists. We chatted for a long time that day. She said, "I have to text you secretly, my mum's very strict." "Then I'll donate a phone to you first," I replied generously. It was before Apple phones existed, just a simple flip phone. She loved it, showing me the fox stickers she'd put on it. She called herself Fox, and named me Peach. I didn't really understand it. Nor did I get what was so cute about that red fox with its knickers worn outside. But Janie loved it. I'll never forget that time. My parents kept me locked at home, with rotating private tutors coming to teach me academics, piano, painting, and various other arts. But I wasn't allowed to go out alone. In my loneliness, I could only chat with her. We seemed to have endless things to talk about. Sometimes I'd act cool and deliberately ignore her. She would keep sending me fox emoticons and apologize with bowing emojis. I would get curious about who she was and ask for her photo. But she would rationally say, "Let's just be online friends who never meet. That way we can show our truest selves to each other. If we had photos, we might develop unrealistic fantasies. And then our chats wouldn't be genuine anymore." Until high school, when she suddenly disappeared. Her chat avatar stopped moving. After I went through withdrawal and showed improvement, I was finally allowed to go to school. I wanted to find her. I waited and waited until her avatar finally lit up again. I eagerly replied, "I can go out now. Let me come find you. Weren't you always interested in my inheritance?" "I have money. What's your real name?" I anxiously asked her, even sending my most handsome photo to try to impress her. She paused for a moment. Then a string of black text appeared before my eyes. "My name is Janie Ward." Janie told me she hated her stepsister, Maggie Sinclair. She was chubby and plain, but her grades were better than Janie's. "I don't want to be beaten by someone like her." Janie tugged at my sleeve, her eyes glistening like water. "Can I ask for your help, Peach?" "Of course," I agreed. I approached Maggie with ulterior motives. Maggie was a bit plump, with ordinary features and even a few spots on her forehead. She was the type of person you wouldn't notice in a crowd. She wasn't well off either. I observed that she seemed to only have one coat, her school uniform. Her shoes were worn out, with uneven soles on each foot. I wondered why Janie would target someone who clearly couldn't compete with her tall, pretty self. The thought of getting close to her made me feel sick. But for Janie's sake, I suppressed my disgust and put on a smile. "I'm Peter Wilson," I said. I caught a glimpse of wonder and shyness in Maggie's eyes. I knew girls like her, ordinary ones who rarely got attention, would easily fall for me if I showed them the slightest kindness. Then she'd do whatever I asked. However, as I spent time with Maggie, I found myself increasingly drawn to her personality. She was strong and full of life. But what impressed me most was her determination. I was indecisive, which was why I got involved with the wrong crowd. But she was resolute. After Jason embarrassed her, she wouldn't speak a word to him. I witnessed Jason trying to make amends multiple times, helping her with bulletin boards and rushing to carry her notebooks. But Maggie simply ignored him. To be honest, her determination reminded me of Fox. When this strange thought occurred, I quickly pushed it away. My fox couldn't possibly look so ordinary, so round like a tire. My fox had to be Janie. Back then, I judged people by their appearance. And that's how I lost my most precious treasure. My plan was in motion, but she gradually distanced herself from me. It made me feel dejected, lost, and even sad. I refused to acknowledge this sadness. I couldn't possibly feel this way about someone who looked like a tire. She was so chubby and plain, how could I like her? I absolutely wouldn't admit it. So I agreed to Janie's plan to sabotage her Olympiad exam. As she lay unconscious on the bed, her chubby face looked oddly cute despite being so ordinary. I must be going mad. I set the heating to a comfortable temperature and tucked her in properly. Before leaving, I looked at her sleeping form. "It's all right, Maggie, I promise this is the last time I'll hurt you. I've repaid all my debts to Janie Ward. Maggie, you'll forgive me, won't you? I know you're incredibly determined. But I have all the time in the world to win you over. I'm not like that traitor Jason Booth. Maggie." I couldn't help but turn back. Leaning down, I pinched her plump cheek. "Forgive me, Because I have a lifetime to make it up to you. I brought Fox's favorite camellias to see Janie. She was performing in a dance show, but among the dancers, she wasn't particularly outstanding, not even taking the center position. With many mistakes, her eyes were avoiding contact. This suddenly reminded me of Maggie. Maggie wasn't particularly striking, she couldn't even dance. During class activities, she always stood at the back. In the choir competition, she stood in the boys' section despite being a girl. Yet she wasn't shy or hesitant at all. Her gaze was clear, her expression determined as she seriously completed the choir performance. After the dance performance, I stepped forward to give Janie her supposedly favorite camellias. Fox's love for camellias was something she once posted on social media, before quickly deleting it. But I paid close attention to her, never missing any of her posts. I walked up to her holding the large bouquet of bright red camellias. Inside was a card with £10,000, all the money I had saved. I wanted to tell Janie that I appreciated her help, but I couldn't continue hurting Maggie anymore. When I approached Janie, her brows furrowed sharply. Her beautiful almond eyes showed a hint of disgust as she quickly stepped back, her voice tinged with resentment. I'm allergic to flowers. At that moment, I hadn't processed it yet and instinctively asked, "But didn't you say camellias were your favorite?" As soon as I said those words, my heart felt like it had been struck by an arrow. Like being shocked in an electric chair. My whole body began trembling uncontrollably. The camellias fell from my hands onto the ground. I suddenly remembered walking past camellias with Maggie when she said, "I love camellias." Back then, I had dismissed it completely, not even bothering to pick up the perfect red flowers that had fallen. I had thought, how dare you like flowers, little fatty. Flowers were only meant for princesses. I felt my chest tightening. I left Janie behind and ran home like a madman. The sky had darkened, with rolling clouds and moisture in the air promising rain. When I got back to my mansion, I suddenly couldn't help but laugh. Large droplets of rain crashed onto the ground. The second-floor window had been smashed. Glittering shards of glass mixed with garden soil, stained with blood. I knew it. Maggie wouldn't be so easily defeated. Someone so steadfast would rather jump from the second floor than give up her Olympiad. Had the glass shards pierced her palms? Had she twisted her ankle when she jumped? Was she in pain? Was she scared? What was she thinking when she jumped? Would she ever forgive me? Fear, pain, worry, despair, all these complex emotions hit my chest like a hammer. I gripped the fallen glass shards tightly in my palm. I was laughing, happy that she had escaped. But I also wanted to cry, knowing I probably couldn't make amends now. When blood began flowing through my fingers, I knew where I needed to go. I would turn myself in at the police station. For unlawful imprisonment. I was willing to face the consequences of my actions. When I arrived at the police station, I saw my Fox was already there. She held a voice recorder, speaking clearly and methodically. "Officer, this is the person who imprisoned me illegally. Here's all the evidence." My Fox was so clever. She had carried a voice recorder in her bag since she first became suspicious. She let everyone see my true nature. The police looked at me, and Maggie looked at me too. Her gaze was still clear. But I couldn't help crying. "I plead guilty." I heard my final choked words. "Forgive me, Fox." Maggie's perspective. Peter's confinement of me didn't exceed 24 hours. So it didn't constitute a criminal offense. Of course, he didn't get away with it either. After spending 3 months in custody, he transferred to another school. His reputation at school wasn't the same anymore. Everyone said he was frightening. After this incident, many people became sympathetic towards me, while they started avoiding Janie. I began making other friends. Peter came to see me once before he transferred. He placed the camellia in front of me, along with the pen I had lent him at the beginning. The young man lowered his head, his voice somewhat hoarse. "Don't we have any good memories between us? Can't you forgive me just once?" I shook my head. Peter smiled bitterly. I looked up the meaning of camellias. "How dare you belittle my love? I think that's why you like them. Because you're proud and determined like the camellia. The moment I belittled your love, you gave up on me. No, I like camellias because they're called the guillotine flower. Which reminds me of Louis XVI. I find it quite amusing. I decided to correct Peter's misconception. Peter paused, looking somewhat hurt. I told him honestly. I did like you. You were handsome and kind to me. I invested time and emotions in you, which are now sunk costs. But from now on, I don't want any connection with you. Even a dog knows not to go back after being hit, and I'm human. I shook my head and left. Moreover, about the misunderstanding. Couldn't Peter sense the personality differences between Janie and me? He just didn't want to admit that the fox who accompanied him and touched his heart was actually so unattractive and overweight in reality. I used to obsess over why I was so fat, and I would long for others' love. I would also pray for people to see my good qualities and inner beauty. But with Peter, even though I was the one who got to know him first with sincerity, he was still caught up with appearances. I finally understood that I cannot control people's first impressions of me, since I cannot change others' perspectives. And human nature is attracted to beautiful things. So I've learned to face my appearance and body with acceptance. No longer ashamed of others' gazes, whether they want to understand me or not. I will freely display my own kind of beauty. By beauty, I mean I can work hard to lose weight, learn makeup and skincare. It can also mean being confident, studying hard, gaining knowledge, and living optimistically. Missing one Olympiad competition won't change my destiny. Nothing from the past will affect my future. I participated in the advanced placement program. Subsequently, I got early admission into a prestigious engineering university. After that, I had no further contact with Peter. Extra chapter. Peter encountered Maggie again at an important conference. In her 40s, Maggie still maintained her slightly plump figure, and her ever-present warm smile made her appear as gentle and kind as always. Over the years, Peter had taken over his family's business, manufacturing certain mechanical parts. That's why he was able to attend this conference. He sat in the furthest corner. Meanwhile, Maggie stood on the stage, accompanied by a man who appeared to be in his 20s. The young man was tall and well-built, wearing a simple suit, with proud features that carried a hint of defiance. Peter even saw shadows of his younger self in him. The more Peter looked, the more familiar the man seemed, until he approached and was nearly shocked. The man on Maggie's arm was his distant nephew by blood. He had heard that after his nephew enrolled in a certain engineering university, he had disappeared from family radar. Now here he was, standing beside Maggie, showing intimate gestures as he bent down to fasten a camellia-patterned silk ribbon for her. His proud features softened with love and tenderness. Peter trembled with shock. A few days after the event, Peter pulled some strings to find his nephew. Peter heard his own voice become shrill with anger. How can you be with her? There's a 20-year age gap between you. If I'm not with Professor Sinclair, are you suggesting you should be? The nephew's voice was contemptuous as he casually brushed off Peter's hand. Do you know who my professor is? She's the chief director of the nation's most crucial defense weapons program. Do you know how much foreign agencies have offered to recruit her? There was armed security at today's conference. My professor is a person of great character and wisdom. As the nephew spoke, his eyes revealed a hint of intoxicated love. Peter knew that look too well. He felt his blood boiling. His nephew seemed to genuinely love Maggie. I was selected through multiple rounds to become her partner. I should thank you, uncle. She seems to quite fancy your type. Then Peter hesitated, feeling a surge of hope. Does she still remember me? Does she miss me a bit? Could I also stand by her side? The nephew gave Peter an odd look, then spoke with a hint of mockery. Uncle, the wrinkles around your eyes are showing when you smile. Peter couldn't remember how he stumbled out of his nephew's house. He bought lots of health supplements and skincare products, and even considered getting dermal fillers. But none of this could fill the void in his heart. He seemed to have fallen into appearance anxiety, wondering if he wasn't so old, would he have qualified to be chosen? Peter looked at himself in the mirror. He touched the corners of his eyes, feeling moisture beneath his fingertips. Judging by appearances loses the essence of a person.